Test.
My volume's on, but just low, so it should be fine.
Do you know how to switch it?
Because otherwise you'll be tripped up.
Okay. Because I think it's starting the video all over again.
It's okay.
Okay, do you want to just redo the introduction then?
I would just start from where you are, because otherwise if it doesn't keep recording.
We're going to be in Bad News Bears, okay. All right, so Dr. Tolman, I just did a recapitulation from our last session. I re-summarized everything with Allison. I'm just telling you this just in case I can't recover the previous recording. Okay, so after I just summarized, your presenting problem from last time, Allison. I just want to know if there's been any changes since then. Anything different?
No, nothing's changed. I mean, my appetite's up and stuff, so
Okay.
I'm eating again more than I was.
Okay.
But I mean, still not really like sleeping
Okay.
very well. I'm still pretty irritable.
Okay. Did you get back to running?
I try to work it in.
Yeah.
It just kind of depends on the day of the week and
Okay.
how things are going with the kids. But I try to sneak it in when they're at school.
Okay.
Yeah. Usually that's like my saving grace if I can do that daily. Run a few miles every day, and maybe just get my prayers in and
Right.
spiritual time.
So last week we were discussing, just the scheduling with with your busy life, and it doesn't seem that you have any problems coordinating and managing everything that's going on right now.
No.
Just all these different.
No, I mean, I guess it depends on what you mean by have trouble managing. I mean, I'm pretty strong at managing. Busy schedule is kind of my thing, but and organizing situations, but it's a very tight schedule. When you have 4 children, they're all under the age of 18. You're pretty busy.
Yeah. I must say.
Running around.
I must say, if I was in your position, I don't know how I would be able to handle everything that you're going through right now.
Yeah.
And,
I guess that's part of maybe what's helpful is keeps my mind off of my worries a lot of the time.
Okay. Do you mind if we kind of explore a little bit more with your new adopted son? What was his name again? I remember Abby. Daniel, right? Okay. We didn't really get to talk too much about Daniel. So could we just briefly, in about just a couple minutes, can you just tell me a little bit more about his situation? I remember that you told me that he's having a harder time integrating into this public school that you sent him into. I think, did you say you wanted to homeschool him, from what I remember?
Well, I was thinking about homeschooling him, but he really needed the English language support at public school. So my husband and I, original visions were to have him and Abby home with us, and Abby didn't come back with us, but and maybe have our youngest son. Well, at the time, our youngest son Benjamin. Oh no, he's still our youngest son. Home too for the first year or so, but it turned out that Daniel really needed to learn how to speak English and write English and read English, and I don't know Chinese, so that was going to be a pretty significant problem because the characters are all different, and really they needed someone who's actually more on the expert side to do that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So someone who's actually
different
ESS.
Letter system and a whole different language. He's not my only child, so that's pretty complicated.
Yeah.
So that's why he ended up going to public school, because we thought he could be supported better there.
Okay.
It's been okay. It hasn't been amazing, but it's been okay.
Okay.
It's been pretty good. He likes living with us and is trying to fit in. So,
I see. Okay.
So he's happy to be with us.
So
to have brothers and.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate his integration?
I don't know. I'm coming up with 7.
Okay.
It might be higher. He wants to be he is part of the family. But he wants to be part of the family. He has always shown that since he came back from China with us and we returned home. He always has been interested in doing the things that kids in the U.S. do and that his brothers do,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, he's happy to be an American. He's happy to have brothers
Mm-hmm.
and to have a mom and a dad. So I feel like if that's what he feels like in his heart, that will help him a lot with
Okay.
adjusting, and I think it has. He's learned a lot of English.
So he has a really high level of commitment to this
Yes.
change. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that I have heard from my other friends who adopted kids that it's not always like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the kids have a harder time accepting all the changes that have
Mm-hmm.
come their way because it's so drastic,
Mm-hmm.
especially because he came over when he was 13.
Mm-hmm.
But
And he's 14 now, right?
yeah,
Okay.
he's 14 now. Well, actually, he just turned. No, yeah, he's 14.
Okay.
So I think if you want it
Mm-hmm.
and you're motivated, it can make transitions a lot easier
Right,
on that
right.
individual if they're committed to.
So would you say that Daniel right now is a source of concern for you?
Yeah, I mean, all my children in a way are
Yeah.
a source of concern for me in different levels.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, he was raised in an orphanage in another country for a long, for 13 years.
Right.
And he has some issues that I think show up with kids that have grown up without parents.
Can you elaborate in what ways are these issues concerning? I mean, is there specific behaviors that he's exhibiting?
It's not anything that's upsetting to me or to anyone else, but it's a little unusual. Like he has never really had many of his own things, as you might imagine. And so he has some hoarding behavior. Like he'll hoard things, not like steal things, but just hoard. And kind of he'll keep maybe a collection of all the gum wrappers of all the gum he's ever had. He'll keep all the gum wrappers like in a space all together in his room. Or if you give him something, he's like generous with his heart, but he won't necessarily want to he will share in a lot of ways, but he might sort of try to keep things to himself and very slowly, like where my other kids would just go through their pack. Like if all 4 kids in my family got a pack of gum at the grocery, like the other 3 might have gone through their gum in a week, maybe gone through their gum in 2 days. It depends on their personality. Maybe in 2 weeks, but he would have the same pack of gum for he still has the same pack of gum. No, that's actually not true. He hasn't the same pack of gum since when he arrived. But I mean, for 6 months, 7 months, he might have the same pack of gum and eat half by half and like that sort of thing. So nothing that's hurting anyone else, but it does seem to show a little bit of a different attitude towards.
Would you say that he's very frugal and maybe grateful for?
Well, he's definitely very grateful.
Yeah.
He is frugal. He definitely was not raised with a lot of material goods, but he also, the hoarding part I think does show a little bit of, I don't know. I mean, it seems a little unusual. Like my other 3 they really don't hold on to things the way he does and sort of keep them all in the same place. Like they think trash is trash.
Yeah.
I might find it around the house. I might find it in the trash can, but probably wouldn't find it very neatly folded. Gum wrapper after gum wrapper, like all in the same spot, like tucked in a special little.
Do you think this could be a strength that your other children can kind of learn from? Just this kind of, again, this frugality, not being wasteful.
Oh, definitely the not being wasteful part, for sure. The problem is that if the other boys see that he's behaving differently than kids.
I see. Okay.
Because 3 of my 4 kids are all in the same age range. They're all within a few years of each other.
Yeah.
Like preteens and teens can be really, really hard on each other with social behavior.
Yeah.
Like if they see that he's doing that, what do you think might happen? They might start making fun of him.
Right.
Because they don't have a understanding of why he might have that kind of behavior. They might just think in their mind it's very peculiar, very strange. or very like funny, like they might think it's funny, but like funny weird, versus actually like they're not grown up enough to really understand. Maybe has something to do with him having a hard life. I've tried to explain these sorts of things to them, but sometimes like 13-year-old boys and girls are not the most mature people, right. Or the kindest to each other. Although they do all get along.
Yeah,
they do pick on each other for sure. That's something that brothers do.
Right. I'm sensing this is again just a very real. It is something that we need to that you're aware of, that again him trying to fit in with these other younger adolescents.
Yeah, and
so that's a good point you just brought up.
I mean, mostly I'm okay because I just do what I need to do. I don't like necessarily worry too much about what everyone else, all my friends are saying or thinking too much. I think people are pretty supportive, but whatever's wrong with your kids, it's always the mom's fault. So you can imagine too that if that can be a little hard sometimes to feel like the responsibility of 4 people's lives going well or not well,
right.
and me getting the credit or the discredit for their behavior, but yeah, he's had a different sort of life, and they act like brothers. They bicker and fight and wrestle and stand up for each other.
So there is a sense of solidarity.
Pretty healthy.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes it's irritating to me and to my husband. But I think it's like they're kind of like puppies in a way.
Right. I kind of want to touch on one something that you brought up a couple minutes ago, and then I would like to kind of refocus back to Abby and some of your sleeping issues. You mentioned that you had friends who had also previously adopted, and that they had struggles with their adoption. Could you perhaps tell me more about that?
Well, just not every child that's adopted has an easy time of coming from a whole another culture. I mean, in fact, it's probably more common for someone being brought from a whole other culture and who's maybe been in and out of foster care, and or maybe has never had like real parents to all of a sudden come into a brand new country, brand new language, brand new culture, and then the culture of living in a family versus the culture of living in an orphanage is really different. And so sometimes, even if those kids really desperately want to be adopted and have parents, and they have like their sort of fantasies about what it would be like in their heads, of how wonderful it would be, the reality is that like it's a really, really difficult change to come to. I mean, that they're not even just learning how to live in a family from one place to the other. They're actually learning how to live in a family when they've never lived in one before. So, and some of them have, but there can be a lot of big tantrums and aggressiveness and depression, and it's not necessarily permanent or anything like that, or just shock or overwhelmed. Daniel was really, really overwhelmed for a long time.
Oh, I see.
We couldn't even, going to the grocery store with him, which is something I needed to do. I was able to figure out how to make it work, even when my husband wasn't around, but he, the first few months I couldn't take him, we couldn't pretty much leave the house, that he could go to school and the house, and, like church sometimes. Yeah. But the first few months when he came, right after that was Christmas. Actually, the week we arrived home was Halloween, and we didn't do Halloween at all because that was going to be way too stressful on many, many levels. You imagine all those costumes, and then the candy, and then everyone dressed like way too much. We didn't even try to do that. And Christmas, we kept it really small and gave. Christmas is a very big deal in my family, and we give lots of gifts, and it's a very, very big celebration. And we kept it really, really, really low key because giving someone who's not used to getting gifts and celebrating this holiday and all the lights and the color and all that and sugar and everything else, like giving them lots of gifts and stuff is too much. we had heard this even. That was part of our training. Before
see.
we adopted kids, we had to go sort of through like some cultural sensitivity training and just understanding like what these kids may be going through when they come back to our country. So yeah.
So you, it sounds like it must be quite a shock for the little guy.
Yeah, I mean he's been here for a while now. So
I see. Okay.
You know, after a year, young people do tend to adapt pretty quickly compared to adults. But initially it was really, really, really hard. I mean, no grocery store, home, school, that was it. He didn't go to school the first few weeks because he needed to just figure out where home was.
Right.
And what that meant.
And you had to be there the whole time monitoring.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And whereas
you certainly have a very big heart.
I have a big something. It's part of what my husband and I believe is like part of our life's work, and one of the reasons that we were put on this earth was to raise the kids we have and adopt Daniel, and it's confusing to me why we were sent to go get Abby and then we couldn't bring Abby back. That was really very painful and very difficult to understand. Like, I don't necessarily understand that message. It makes me question my faith. But I'm also working it out and trying to get like a bigger meaning from that. And that's been slow.
Okay.
But doesn't have to come right away.
Right.
You know?
I'm glad that you kind of pivoted here and changed the direction of the interview back to Abby. And I'd like to talk to her. I'd like to talk about her for the next couple of minutes. But before we do that, I'd like to kind of look back to something you said probably about 5 minutes ago about depression. Was it your friends who were depressed, or was it Daniel who was depressed, or do you think it was you who might have been depressed?
When?
You were mentioning that depression was something that was involved in the adoption process.
Oh, I'm sorry. With the kids when they come over.
Oh, okay, all right.
I mean, you could just see all different sorts of behavior from them. A lot of times what you will see is a combination of like anxiety, fear, anger, fear, anxiety, like these combinations of things. But it's not complete. It's actually quite common to see sort of outpouring of like anger, sort of like through tantrum style behavior. It looks different in some of the older children than it does in younger children, but just because they for sure have some reasons, but some of these kids have many, many reasons to be extremely angry about what they have been, what their life story has been so far. And they don't know that. I mean, they know that, but they don't know it. They just behave it.
Right.
So, but we haven't seen very much of that from Daniel, but we've seen enough. We've seen enough of it to know that he has a healthy attitude. Like we don't think he's hiding it. We don't think he's like suppressing his emotions, which is one of the reasons why we think he's doing pretty well, because he's like the other people. He goes to school. He likes going to school. He likes coming home being with his family. He sometimes has like outbursts may be kind of strong. Let's face it, all of my kids have tantrums in one way, shape, or form. They just look a little different when they're 14 and 15 years old.
Right. Yeah. So it sounds to me that that Daniel's transition has been pretty smooth then. Much smoother than what you could have expected.
That's kind of what I was trying to say before was
okay.
I think we feel like it's been a very challenging process, but it was always going to be a challenging process. And we didn't know what was going to happen to our family when we changed the constellation. We didn't know how that would go, but no one ever does until you do it. Even when you have your own natural born kids, it changes everything.
Oh, no, that's sorry.
I was trying to keep the volume on for headphones. So
You're a very busy woman, Allison. Sorry, I expected the phone
Sorry,
to go off.
that was one of my sons. He was wondering where the remote control was.
Yeah.
I told him he should be doing his homework.
Mhm.
Yeah, like we feel like he's doing really well, all things considered.
Mhm.
We're, as a family, doing well, all things considered. I do wonder what he thinks. I do wonder what my husband thinks,
Mhm.
although we talk, But I wonder what the children think about leaving a child behind.
Right.
I just don't. I know how I feel about it, or
Mhm.
at least I have some ideas about how I feel about it. It's
Mhm.
pretty makes me very sad in some ways, like angry, and I think I was depressed about it for a while. And I'm sort of coming out of it. It's like sort of grieving the loss of a child is what I feel like. Like I had a child and the child died, except I know the child didn't die. It's almost worse. So their circumstances are probably really horrible and they're going to get a lot worse. But the children were there when we couldn't take Abby back with us, except for Benjamin. He was with his grandparents in the U.S. And Daniel saw that too, and he came from the same place she did.
Okay.
And I just wonder, it's one thing for me to be upset and have all these feelings, but I wonder about the children. I just wonder because they don't have any context for what's happened. I don't know. They just don't. It's a first time for all of us.
Yeah.
But they're much younger. I don't really know if they realize. I don't know if it's affected them a ton.
Right.
And we'll see this later come up, or if or if they've kind of handled it in their own way, as kids do sometimes.
So it seems like this problem is getting much more multifaceted because now you're.
It's really complicated.
Right, absolutely. You're worried about how the children perceive this.
Yeah.
Then, of course, you're being affected physically, emotionally, and mentally by it.
Yeah,
and
spiritually.
Spiritually as well. And then you have young Daniel here, who, of course, is kind of exhibiting some different issues with his transition. Although it does seem like it was a pretty smooth adoption.
He doesn't ask about her, but every once in a while he will just say, like, he won't ask about her, but he'll mention her every once in a while. Like, it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 or 4 times in this past year, but he'll just sort of out of the blue say like Abby was no good. She was no good. It's like he will just say that to me, and I don't know what that means. I don't know. I think maybe there's something lost in translation.
Yeah.
He knows what those words mean.
Yeah.
I don't know what he actually means. And he speaks English pretty well.
Yeah.
But he doesn't necessarily speak English very well when it comes to talking about his emotions, as even my own English speaking sons don't really.
Do it.
They don't. Yeah, it's hard for them. So I don't really push it. Like I don't really ask too much, although I'm curious.
So it sounds like you are curious about kind of finding some narrative behind that.
Like what would that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as we kind of progress the next towards the end of this second session, maybe we can work together and devise some interventions because that is as you say some curious statements, and obviously I don't want to hypothesize or speculate.
He always says the same thing too. She no good.
Yeah,
she no good.
And you've never confronted him about it. Ask him to.
Well,
some more
in the very beginning, I had to try to figure out what he meant by she no good. Like the whole just what like who's no good? And he would say Abby. Then I would know. And then I mean.
Excuse me.
No, it's okay. Gotta drink your coffee when it's warm.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
But I mean, I have a really different point of view than he does because he lived with her his whole life. They were in the same orphanage their whole life. So I wonder what that means, But then also, I don't really put blame like that on children.
Yeah.
Even if their behavior is outrageous, I still don't really believe that that comes from them.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I mean, like, she didn't cause herself to be the way she is.
Right.
We don't really know fully what was so hard for her that she couldn't come with us. Like,
mm-hmm.
if it was something that is changeable, fixable, or
mm-hmm.
if it isn't, something you could address and you could do therapy and help her, or if it's something more like permanent.
Mm-hmm.
She had some brain damage from epilepsy and some other issues. So she had some real issues where there had been damage to her brain, and I don't know, but it does make me wonder, like, did she just think she was bad?
Yeah.
Did she do some really horrible things at the orphanage? Does he just not want to be associated with her?
Right.
Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And she's bad. That's why you kept me. That's why I don't know.
As you're searching for significance, do you consider it a blessing, perhaps, that you of course suffered this loss by having to leave Abby back in China, but it's a blessing that Daniel assimilated, it's not assimilated, but he kind of...
I had trouble with the word blessing, but I think I might know what you mean,
mm-hmm.
which is like, I don't think if she came with us to our house with our family, like, if for some reason we were able to make that work,
mm-hmm.
I can only imagine what our lives would have turned into,
mm-hmm.
and how really unbelievably challenging it would have made my life for 4 kids,
mm-hmm.
and for me, and for my husband.
And she would have been the only girl.
The only girl, if it would have been fixable.
Yeah.
Like, if it would have been, I hate to use the word fix, but like manageable. Like,
mm-hmm.
is it something where like you could over time see improvement, or
mm-hmm.
if you were just permanently in a state of being with a child that had massive tantrums all the time. And it wasn't really what I have a lot of guilt about this,
mm-hmm.
But since this is private
mm-hmm.
between you and I,
mm-hmm.
like, I have a lot of guilt and sort of shame about being glad that she didn't come and make our lives so hard.
Right.
Because it's kind of a relief, because I don't know, like, I would have felt like I had to, if there was any way we could have transported her that was manageable,
right.
we would have, because those are our values. But it would have maybe meant that the rest of our lives were forever changed
mm-hmm.
in an extreme way,
mm-hmm.
versus in a blessings way, like with Daniel was
mm-hmm.
a blessing, and it was maybe, I can't really use the word blessing exactly,
mm-hmm.
but maybe it was a good thing that, or at least it wasn't a bad thing
mm-hmm.
for us that she stayed put,
mm-hmm.
because I don't know how much Daniel would have gotten from having 4 brothers
mm-hmm.
if she had come and was really disruptive all the time
mm-hmm.
and violent.
I'm picking up that you might have a very kind of a sensitive or nervous energy about you. Is that right? Like, you get very easily affected by
mm-hmm.
A strong conscience, if that makes any
mm-hmm.
sense. That you respond very empathetically to suffering.
Yeah, I am very sensitive,
mm-hmm.
And that makes, like, I think it makes my work easier and harder
mm-hmm.
with the children.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Do you have any techniques for centering, or techniques for kind of calming down?
Well, every night before I go to bed,
mm-hmm.
I take some time and I do, like, spiritual practice.
Okay.
So,
is that something you do together with your husband, or with Daniel, or with your other 3 sons?
I do it in the evenings. I do it for myself.
Okay.
And then sometimes my husband and I, or with other couples,
mm-hmm.
will do stuff together,
okay.
just like with adults.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also do some of that sort of stuff with our kids, but it's more in the form of going to church,
mm-hmm.
or just the day-to-day lessons of life.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Like our spiritual angle like our Christian values
Right.
and that sort of a thing. Like it comes out in like the way we parent.
Mm-hmm.
I had homeschooled for a while, and it was really nice to have my kids with me because I knew exactly what morals they were learning, and I knew that like I could teach them about Christ, and I could teach them about we could talk about Bible stories and stuff like as part of the not necessarily part of the curriculum, but during the day when I had them, I could refer back to it if I was trying to get them to relate something moral back to a teaching. Like I could actually just say I could do that. Whereas if they were in school, unless they were in like a religious school, which they were also in religious school a while ago, it was very expensive. Otherwise, like in public school, they can't do that. So,
I don't really want to dwell too long on this, but it just seems that this dimension of your coping mechanism it's pretty well satisfied. Is that a correct assumption? That you don't need to kind of invest.
I feel like it's really solid. It's made coming into therapy a little bit challenging because I feel like I should be able to get that sort of support from my spiritual community from
you're not the only person.
The inner work that I do. I feel like that should take care of it in some way, shape, or form. But my husband, I really respect him and his ideas, and he feels the same as I do. But he was the one who said maybe it's time to just maybe add like another layer, like add a professional, just that maybe had a slightly different angle, so you can continue to do all the things you've been doing spiritually to support yourself.
Right.
And then also have this other layer. Maybe the combination of all of them would help me through what isn't really moving super quickly. Like I'm eating again, I'm starting to gain a little bit of weight back, so that's good. But
and this is all stuff you've
done
on your own.
Losing patience, all that's not really
Christian behavior.
Changing.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
I'm not. Well, it's not really Christian behavior either, but I'm not.
Well, that's
it's
good.
not improving.
Yeah, absolutely. So
hence, maybe we need another approach.
I just want to start off by saying that you're not the only Christian woman, who's kind of has had this dilemma coming in to see a professional therapist like myself. So you're not alone in this. But you did state a very important word, and that was changing. And at this point, you've revealed all of this information to me, and I just kind of want to know, if you could change anything right now, what would you change?
I don't.
What would you imagine that would be different?
I feel like that's such a broad question that I don't know that I would necessarily just come up with an answer to that, because I don't even know. That's so broad. I'm not actually sure how to answer that. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm going to take a risk here. I'm going to guess that you're feeling very guilty and ashamed right now that Abby was left in China. So you're dealing with guilt right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's try to. I'll admit that was a pretty broad question. I just wanted to kind of go on just try to see what I can get out of you.
Yeah. It just feels like so broad that I can't narrow in on anything that I would necessarily change.
Okay.
I don't know. It did feel broad to me in an overwhelming sort of way.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's narrow it down then. Let's discuss 3 things that you would change, 3 goals that you would change. Or 3 goals that you would have towards affecting change. So obviously, you're feeling guilty, as you said, and you're feeling ashamed. Would that be a problem that you'd like to have fixed?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the sleeping and the eating.
Yeah, I feel like I said, I think the eating thing I'm coming along with. We should probably keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Or if I go back to some older habits of not eating. What was the thing you said about not sleeping? Finding some ways to calm myself down, or relieve whatever my mind's busy,
Okay.
whatever it's busily working away on that's keeping me up.
When you have puppy brain. When you have puppy brain.
Yeah. The continuous stream of thoughts or worries.
Right.
List of things I need to do. Maybe. I mean, having some relief from that. I'm also very realistic, which is that since the life of 4 people is in my hands, not including my life or my husband's life or anyone else in my larger family, I'm going to have a really busy brain for about
absolutely for the next 10
to 15 years. I mean, to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's like a healthier way to do that. Or a little bit.
I think
a little easier.
Together we can, I can, with your permission, and I can give you some advice. But so you've mentioned so far the guilt, and then of course the thoughts, the racing. I wouldn't say they're racing thoughts, but just the kind of very busy thoughts, the busyness, the lack of sleeping. Could you perhaps could you devise a third goal, or would you say that the racing the thoughts, the busy mind and
I kind of feel like I'm happy with the 2 goals right now. And okay. I mean, I think maybe a third goal might pop up sort of naturally. Maybe I'm not really sure that I don't necessarily want to be like structured into 3 goals if they don't come easily unless there's something that you see that I don't totally see or understand about what, like you're hearing my story for the first time, so it's like your perspective is very different than my story, which I've been listening to and living in for my whole life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's well put, actually. Yeah.
But it's not necessarily obvious to me.
Okay. Well, Allison, it looks like we probably have a couple more minutes. I just want to, before we come to an ending, I'd really like to start again negotiating some goals. Again, real quickly. I'm just going to have 2 questions, and then we'll end our interview. Okay. So my first question is, what do you see as some obstacles, physical obstacles or whatever, that will prevent you from sleeping, or that will kind of this or not physical necessarily, but just real world obstacles that will kind of where you won't be able to kind of be quiet, find a place to sit, be quiet, or will keep you awake at night. I mean,
well, the people living in my house.
Okay.
I mean, that's just reality. Getting sick, having homework, having a bad day, just general, very regular life. With our wacky schedules, although I like a good schedule.
Yeah.
I like a good solid schedule. I like the structure of it. Then it helps me feel like everything's under control. So then that is something that calms me down, which I just do naturally whenever possible. But it's not been super easy with 4 kids. But it's been reasonable.
I see.
And
just the normal challenges of adulting then.
Yeah. Just. You pretty much set up a schedule so that you cannot follow the schedule.
Okay.
Is really it's like a common.
So a strength then would be that that you are able to self-monitor then, and keep a schedule and be able to
keep some semblance of a schedule.
Okay.
Does make me feel a lot calmer, and then in turn the kids will feel calmer. It all feeds off itself. So that is
okay. Well, I just have one more. Just a quick question. How would you kind of gauge your commitment to change, to fixing these goals on a scale of 1 to 10?
I mean, I guess like a 6 or 7.
Okay, so it's pretty high there.
Yeah.
Okay. How would you feel about if I could give you some homework for the next week? Is that all right? If you decide to come back,
I'll try to get it done, but I don't really have a lot of free time, so.
Okay. It's a rather
entirely possible that no homework will get done, but I will try.
It's a rather simple assignment. I just want you to kind of keep a baseline of every time. A baseline meaning just keep a tally of every time you can't fall asleep, and then record when you're feeling guilty, or just kind of record when you're getting.
The guilt, like me recording when I feel guilty, is not going to work.
Okay.
The sleep thing might, just because everyone will already be asleep.
Okay. Well, let's just start simple.
Yeah.
And we'll just do that then.
Okay.
The sleep would be perfect.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're out of time, Allison. I'm grateful for you coming back. I'm glad to have met you, and it looks like we're going to probably, hopefully, develop a really strong, helping alliance here. And I really hope that I can be of help to you.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day.
All right, you too.
All right, Dr. Tolman, that's the end of our interview. As you know, I had some technological problems. Unfortunately, I think the first 30 seconds or so of my interview was cut off. And in that first 30 seconds, I was doing a recapitulation of all of Allison's problems and the information that she disclosed to me from our last session. So I did have a proper introduction if you're not able to see that. All right, thanks and have a nice day.